Speaking Myanmar, Lessons for English-Speaking Learners, Subject and Object Markers. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about how to add a subject marker and an object marker to sentences. I'll also explain why you need them and when you might not need them. So we're going to start with a very basic sentence that contains a subject, object, and a verb. I called Ao Win. Now in English, we can identify the subject and object by their relative position to a verb. Remember, a subject is who or what is doing the action defined by the verb. In this case, I am calling someone on the phone, so I'm the subject of this sentence. The object is who or what receives the action. In this case, Ao Win is being called by me, so he's the object of this sentence. But remember, in Myanmar, the word order is different. The verb is placed at the end of the sentence. So one word order could be Jino Ao Win Ponsete. I, Ao Win, called. I could also say Ao Win Jino Ponsete. Ao Win, I called. And that's because the word order can either be subject, object, verb, or object, subject, verb. They basically say the same thing. So the question is, in this sentence, did I call Ao Win or did he call me? You really can't tell from these two sentences. So to solve that problem, the Myanmar language has two primary particles to identify subject and object. Let me show you. So this is the subject marker, and it's pronounced ga or ga. I know it's hard to hear the difference between those two pronunciations. Don't worry about it now. I'll discuss the difference in a later lesson. But this marker is going to immediately follow a noun or a pronoun to indicate that it's the subject of a sentence. Notice, though, I say if needed, and I'll explain that later in this lesson. Now the object marker is pronounced go or go. Again, just a slight difference in pronunciation. It immediately follows a noun or pronoun as well to indicate the object of a sentence. Again, if it's needed. Now, one word of caution. These two particles also have a second meaning. When coming from or going to some place, these particles are also used to clarify meaning. I'm going to cover that in a later lesson. So let's look again at our sentence, I called Ao Win. Now here, I placed the subject marker ga after the word because I'm the subject. And the object marker go is placed after Ao Win because he's the object, the one I'm calling. The verb again remains at the end of the sentence, so we would say Jino ga Ao Win go ponsete. I, Ao Win, called. I could also reverse that subject-object order and just keep the markers attached. So I would say, Ao Win go Jino ga ponsete. Ao Win, I called. This sentence works either way. But the question is, are these markers always needed? Really, in some sentences, only one marker might be needed. For instance, in this sentence, if I identify Ao Win as the object, I wouldn't necessarily have to use a subject marker because the meaning is sufficiently clear, and that's the key. So I could say, Jino Ao Win go ponsete. I, Ao Win, called. Since the object marker makes it clear that Ao Win received the call, it's obvious that I am the subject. I called him. Really, I could say this sentence without including a subject at all because the subject is implied by the speaker, in this case me. I'm the one talking, so it's assumed I'm the one that did the calling. I could just say, Awin go ponsete, Awin called. Because we have the object marker there, it's understood that Awin was the one being called. But is it possible there could be a sentence that needs no subject or object markers? Let's consider that. So let's look at an example of a sentence that doesn't necessarily need any markers at all. I will drink a cup of coffee. I could say, Jino ga coffee te kwe ko tau me. I, a cup of coffee, will drink. I've clearly indicated that I'm doing the drinking and the coffee is what I'll drink. But is that really needed? Would someone think I was saying the coffee will drink me? Not likely. So I could just say, Jino coffee te kwe tau me. Would it be incorrect to always add subject and object particles? No. In fact, until you get the feel for the language, it's probably good practice to use them, since it's not something you're used to doing in English. As you make progress and listen to others, you'll begin to get a feel for when you can leave them out. To review then, the particle ga or ga is used to identify the subject of a sentence. The particle go or go indicates the object of a sentence. So these are particles that are used to help clarify statements if needed, but won't always have to be used. And that'll finish this lesson.